different
I think
place.
we do.
Like, I have a pen right here. All right, Chris.
Ignore my ear.
Sonia is here. I'm here. Piper's here. Sarah's not here. Tanner. Derek. I already know. Steve.
Present.
Michael.
Art here.
I'm like,
I'm supposed to call the roll, so. Okay, all right. Letha. Here. Treva. Here. Delane. Not yet. Rashmi.
here.
Annette. Brent.
Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Let's go ahead and approve the minutes and get Frank in here. He's doing a TCCTA Zoom meeting at 2. And so I'd like to make that so he doesn't have to rush from here to you're there to do it. So if everybody can take a look at the minutes, see if we need any changes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Okay. I'll call, get that.
Okay.
We should have entrance music.
Friday. All right, here to do what we're calling BPAA report is Dr. Frank.
Okay. Well, first off, so I had talked with Chris earlier in the semester about some things that I could bring to y'all and give y'all an opportunity to ask me any questions. And the first item is Badger Bound. And so before I launch into that, just in the interest of being efficient and honoring your time, I had my last newsletter for the semester that came out earlier today, and there was a fairly extensive update on Badger Bound that added on to what I provided in the previous newsletter. So if y'all have read that, that's probably our starting point. The only thing, so just to briefly recap, we've almost met with every single ISD and had great conversations. We had a wonderful event at the Health Science Simulation Center with Region 16 superintendents, and I can't stress enough how important it was to have Dr. Jenkins willing to come down from Columbia University on his own dime. Well, actually, a grant paid for it to be a part of that and work with our superintendents. Answered a lot of questions for them and really provided, I think, a level of credibility to what we've been saying all along about structured dual credit pathways that hopefully is invaluable going forward. And then the one new piece, I went out, do y'all know where or have heard of North Heights High School? Do y'all know North Heights? It's an alternative school. So if you just head down Washington going north, it's right there on the western corner before the boulevard. And this is kind of like Last Chance U, right? So the students who go to North Heights come from Tascosa, Amarillo High, PD, Cap Rock. They're there for a lot of reasons, behavioral, life, performance, other kinds of challenges, maybe a kid, that sort of thing. And I had not ever visited that campus before, but I spent some time with the principal, their curriculum specialist, and a couple of leaders from AISD just to learn more about them, because some of the angst that we've heard from AISD about Thrive going away And in its stead, Badger Bound is that, well, what about our students at North Heights? And then more broadly, what about students who may be academically underprepared that they can't get on this pathway? So wanted to have that conversation with them about what's realistic and what we could work toward. And it was incredibly positive. I think of all the educational entities in the city, they are the ones who most closely mirror like our ethos, our culture. It's very relational, very dedicated teachers out there. Their main focus is developing relationships with students and being really hands-on. And so that's kind of what we talked about what Badger Bound might look like with them. And so we're gonna pilot some dual credit classes with them in the spring and create some realistic pathways for these students to come to AC and have a shot. So very encouraged by that. But I think what it reminded me of, once again, and what I added in the newsletter that came out today, is that as we move along with Badger Bound, it really is going to be customized to every ISD in every high school within those ISDs, because they're all different. They all have a different volume of students, a different number of qualified instructors, different resource capabilities, and so forth. And so part of, I think, the challenge, but also the excitement in bringing this to those schools is being creative and figuring out what makes the most sense for them. And AISD has been really receptive of late. So I think that's incredibly important for the success of this program, because without AISD buy-in, you're talking about a significant percentage of students that we will end up serving anyway, who really need to have the opportunity to get on that dual credit pathway. So that's my spiel, but I'm happy to answer questions about Badger Bound. I know there are challenges that probably you want me to speak to, or anything related, so.
Yeah, a few. I have a couple. So first of all, North Heights, are they on, do you know if their classes are module based? Do they work in modules? Do they kind of, I know that the alternative school in Dumas, and we call it MPOC, North Plains Opportunity Center, they work in a module based format. Is that how they work over there?
Yeah, they're pretty modular, and it definitely has some adaptive elements to it, right? Like self-paced, plus they kind of have like a rolling enrollment,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. So does the one in Dumas. So I was visiting with the counselor at the North Plains Opportunity Center in Dumas, and she was asking about that.
Yeah.
And I told her, all you have to do is tell me, I can create a
That's right.
module-based English course for those students out there. So I've already kind of on that, at least for the English department, to have a module-based course that could be more self-paced instead of the way that we have the traditional English course set up. So I'm on top of things
Yeah,
with
I
that,
love it.
Frank. There you
I
go.
think that cost, right? Because who are the ones who are teaching these classes? Our faculty or their faculty, and then we're providing some level of oversight. So I think those are some of the challenges that are going to emerge, and we're going to have to figure out, how we manage that, how our dual credit coordinators manage that.
Well, we already met for designing co-rec for the high schools. And then we were talking about several of the, of our instructors want to know if we're going to be able to maybe possibly go into some of these high schools.
Yes.
Maybe
That's on
be
the
able
table.
to, that's what, I mean, we have good buy-in from our department, as far as people more than willing to go in and do things like that. Looking at like you said, different ways of doing this that maybe that we haven't thought about before. One concern I'm going to tell you, just talking to our dean and Dumas too, was what about failures? Like, what about when they're in this and how are we going to deal with students failing the course? And I've also had one of my instructor of record for a school, shall remain nameless, but was, I want to say given a hard time, but just sort of badgered a little bit from a principal about having some dual credit students have to drop the course because they were failing.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
They're in college.
They're in college. Yes. Well, that instructor did a fantastic job, but he CC'd
Sure.
me and Kathy in this reply that he sent to his principal. About that, but it's kind of like handling that and how are we going to, with the Badger Bound, how is that going to play in and what are we going to do with those students? I know there's a lot still we got to figure out, Frank, but it's just, my mind has been turning about all of this stuff too. And then those kinds of things come up.
Well,
So,
and I had a student who needed to drop and I was like, okay, it's a different process for a dual credit student than it is a regular academic student. And the dual credit office gets the form and they take care of everything. And that's going to be unmanageable for them at some point.
Yeah, no, I think as so historically, it has always been the case with dual credit that we get pushback when students are not successful in dual credit sections. There are a lot of reasons for that. I think chief among them is differing philosophies on course instruction and rigor, and some elements that they have in place to support students moving along that we don't. And so the one thing I want to make crystal clear is that we are delivering a college class, and we have obligations to the state with the education code, the coordinating board, and our regional accreditor to maintain standards, to maintain rigor. And we simply cannot sacrifice that. So in the past, when we've had students who, for one reason or another, have been unsuccessful in a dual credit class because of performance or because of plagiarism, that has led to principals, coming to the campus with the teacher in tow and maybe a counselor and having a conversation with a department chair. I've been on the other side of that. It's never fun. You try to be diplomatic and professional. The bottom line is, if you have the standards clearly articulated and a syllabus that backs that all up, then it's really in the end an easy thing to say, well, this is what we hold our college students to, and your high school student is in a college class, and we have a responsibility to be consistent. However, with Badger Bound, the stakes are raised. The reason why is because of what is at stake, and that's a free college education. Yeah. So there's a way to get out ahead of that. Region 16 has been an outstanding partner through all of this with us and the dual credit team. We are planning on a couple of more events with high school principals and CCMRs and superintendents to talk about the program, ask questions, talk about the different 15-hour dual credit pathways that we're finalizing. And I think it, in the end, falls on me to really communicate the reality of what a college class is and what our responsibilities are to maintain those standards. You know, I still think, you know, this is the give and take part of it, though. I still think we need to be highly communicative in our willingness to respond when these problems come our way. And we need to do so rapidly. And we also need to listen, particularly if there is negative feedback about our classes, about technical issues and Blackboard, all of those things. You know, Badger Bound raises the stakes across the board for how we deliver dual credit, right? And so now when we're not on the ball, it means more. So we maintain rigor. We hold these students to the same standards that we do our college students. We have to.
Had a few of those this year. Yes, I have.
I should say that the TCCTA Zoom meeting at 2:00 with Pope Frank is going to be about dual credit. So if you're not members, shame on you. And if you're, but if you do, if you want the link, just email me and I'll give it to you. I work both sides of the street.
That's fair.
What other question, Pam?
I know there's probably more, but
I have one.
oh, go ahead, because I'm like, all
I'm a
right.
dual credit coordinator too.
I thought of one thing. You know, we're just rolling it out in the fall. And so there's a crop of students who have really no margin for error, right? They've got, maybe if they're juniors, they've got this year or next year to get to 15. Or if they're a senior, maybe they have a shot to get 15. That margin of error is going to grow as we get deeper into the program. And so I think, you know, one of the big pieces of Badger Bound is how well we communicate it early on and start cultivating interest in the program, as well as, of course, the reason why that's important is for those students who are unsuccessful, if it's early on enough, then we can still get them back on that pathway in a subsequent semester. And it may be that, you know, we've always lined up with the high school's semester approach, and that means like 14-week classes within their long semester, within our long semester. But I think it's entirely possible to deliver something that's a little more accelerated in certain disciplines. And so, you know, one of the advantages of 8 weeks, whatever your thoughts might be about some of the challenges with it, the one thing that always, I think, commended the 8-week model was the fact that it created multiple entry points. So if a student was unsuccessful in Comp 1 in their first 8-week term, they could immediately get back in the saddle in the second 8-week term for another shot at it, right? As opposed to having to wait until the start of the spring. And so I think we just need to be mindful that we're giving students every opportunity to get on that pathway as early as possible and then to stay on it, even if there's some failure along the way. Yes, ma'am?
You said you were thinking of trying to do something at North Heights in the spring. What program will it be?
Well, Smaller than that. We're talking about like a singular dual credit
Like
class.
English or something.
Yeah, maybe two. I mean, we talked about the value of doing an FYS out there because it's so focused on career exploration. It's kind of low stakes in one sense, although a very important class, as we know, because it's statistically significantly linked to increased retention. And I even volunteered to be the one to teach the class out there if that's something that they wanted. But, you know, we're probably thinking something like maybe econ or psych or something like that. So it wouldn't be a program. It would really be more like piloting a class, maybe. Because when I was talking with the leadership out there, you know, they want to do everything all at once for these students, and they really feel a sense of urgency. Like it is kind of the last stop, right? They're at a crossroads. They understand that, particularly in their case, we have to play the long game, and we got to get it right. And so we can't do everything all at once. So probably one class, maybe two, and then you know, as far as like programs down the road, who knows? One advantage that they have, it's like a short 3-minute drive from the campus, depending on the lights, and it is entirely possible to bring a cohort of students to our campus for instruction. And I learned a story from their principal yesterday. One of their seniors had taken a campus tour out to East Campus and got into the aviation bay and saw that's what he wanted. Well, guess where he is now? He's in aviation. And it's like, that's what I think, that's the part of Badger Bound that, you know, it's more than just classes that we offer. It's how we engage with them, how we get them to campus, how we expose them to our programs, introducing something that they may have no awareness of, you know, so. Yeah.
The next one is also related to Badger Bound. Thrive is sticking around through next year, correct? I just want to confirm when is Thrive ending versus Badger Bound's
Sure.
beginning?
So for AISD, the current junior class is the last Thrive eligible cohort. And so when they graduate, their 3-year window starts the clock. So do the math. So it's the graduating class of 2027. So they basically have Thrive through 2030, right? So there's no new cohorts. So current junior, senior class, AISD. Here in Bushland, Canyon, Dumas. So, you know, any of those students who graduate this year, they can start Badger Bound in the fall. Yeah. So what are we, 2025? So like 4 more years.
I've got a question. So realistically,
Diplomas and degrees.
and I'm thinking section.
Its own separate animal. What Dr. Petty has been working on with academic program leaders is building out a 15-hour pathway for all programs, all right? And that really is our focus. Like, if a student wants to go on and get 18 hours, 21 hours, or whatever, if they want to do diplomas and degrees, that's really a niche program anyway. It's not a whole lot of students in that. That's fine. For us, though, what we're looking for is the 15, okay? So I think our obligation to the ISDs is to make sure that we have provided a legitimate 15-hour pathway if you want to go on and get any kind of AAS in the advanced manufacturing umbrella, right? Or if you want an AS in biology or an AA in English, what are the 15 hours? We find some external funding to offset that cost for them, then it's on their dime. I also think that just generally speaking, you really don't want students to take more than 15 hours in high school, particularly if they don't have clarity, like if they're not locked in stone. Is a sweet spot. That's what the research identifies as the trigger point for success. That's what's reasonable on our end. But we're working with each ISD to deliver those 15-hour pathways that they want. And that's the part that I think is tricky, because if you look at the dual credit page and what we offer already at the different high schools, you'll see a lot of disparity, right? Like Canyon ISD is gangbusters. You can take, 26 different classes right now through dual credit if you're in Canyon ISD. Amarillo ISD, no. I think Caprock, there's only one class that they offer. Now that's going to change. For CTE, if it's an AAS pathway, then the general education courses that are a requirement, there's 15 hours of gen ed for every AAS, are always prime dual credit options.
Right.
However, we have a real incentive to give students on a CTE pathway at least one, if not more, of the program-specific classes to get them hooked, right?
Right, and that's kind of where we keep coming back to, is that whole same thing, because a lot of the students. They get 15 credit hours of our stuff now that we don't.
and then staying on campus to do their high school work. So I don't have like a magic bullet answer. I think we're all aware of the particular challenges with CTE, and also the other reality that we need to dramatically and quickly increase our instructional capacity. But I will say, that we're mindful of this and we're being creative. We're working with Region 16. They have access to a lot of funding to help support the delivery of CTE dual credit across the Panhandle. They have an RPEP grant. We're creating an innovation zone for cybersecurity cluster that's going to utilize a consortium of rural ISDs to deliver didactic and consolidate resources. We're actually writing JET grants for the high schools to get them the equipment they need. So, we're all in, and we have a lot of solutions. But the risk is, how it evolves.
There's always a risk.
But I do think, once technical dual credit was opened up through legislation, and now that it's being prioritized, and now that we've got funding under House Bill 8 to really give us some freedom to explore it, we're going to see a surge in technical dual credit, one way or the other. And I think that's a good thing. Because when I think about the lack of college matriculation across our service area and really across the Panhandle, part of the reason for that is students and parents not fully understanding what even is available at college. Some people have the misperception that it's really a brick and mortar experience, transfer only, all roads lead to the bachelor. And that's not the case, right? That's not the case. There are certificates you can earn that will get you gainfully employed, that are highly lucrative. And you get, if you're a hands-on type of person, this is what you will need, as opposed to just entering the workforce out of high school. So I think communicating that message becomes incredibly important. And that's a big part of what I've called or termed the K-12 engagement framework, that we need to communicate more intensely at the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school, what it is that we do. But what happens when we bring those high school students out to East Campus and they go into the Met, for example? What happens?
And they go, you get some that and they're like, wait a minute, you missed the exit.
It's on the table. It is. Our dual credit model has been what it's been for many, many years, since the beginning, really. If you've got a qualified instructor of record at the high school, they can teach it. And our dual credit coordinator is responsible for oversight, evaluation, troubleshooting. If they don't have someone qualified in this particular discipline area, then we supply the instructor and it's delivered online. And there's a facilitator on site at the high school who's kind of the, on-site supplement to what's happening in the online space. That's not how every community college does it. Some co-locate, they bring the dual credit students to the campus. We've just never explored that. We've never had to, but we also weren't thinking about dual credit as a part of our strategy for lifting up our community. So what we have realized is that everything needs to be on the table. And that includes teaching high school students in a dual credit environment here on campus or at East Campus. It potentially could mean teachers going to the high school. The math department has, I think, a really good model that actually gives the facilitators a little more autonomy in the classroom with a little more oversight from the dual credit coordinator, which is great. The facilitators love that. The students love that. In my mind, the best model is a qualified instructor of record at the high school who's teaching it. That's the best. That's what we want to aspire to. And we are committed to identifying instructors at the high schools who potentially could become qualified, SACS qualified very quickly, and supporting them on that pathway.
And then thinking over the classes.
Yeah, but you think about like a rural ISD high school, maybe they have an ag teacher, right? Who's not SACS qualified to teach a welding class, but really already has the knowledge, right? Has been doing it for years and years and years. Really looking at what it would take to get that individual qualified, perhaps through our program, offsetting the cost, so that we can have that instructor at the campus. And now you've got a partner in WT that's providing 50% tuition, so that has implications on the transfer side with our general education courses. There's a community college in San Antonio, Northeast Vista. They're using their dual credit funding for students who hit 15, actually to provide pathways to credentials for high school instructors of record. They're working with St. Mary's University and Northside ISD to get more high school instructors SACS qualified so they can expand their dual credit footprint. So that's how they're leveraging the funding. It's a little different than what we're doing, but I think it's pretty smart.
Are we looking at anything like that?
Yes, we
Because, okay, because I'm like,
We are.
I agree with you that is the best model. I mean, I only have 6 that are actually instructor of record in the classroom, in the high school classroom for English. And, we have 32 sections and only 6 of those are actually taught by instructor of record that are in the actual classroom. But I tell them all the time, that is best case scenario.
Yeah, it is.
It always is. Not that we don't have some great facilitators, but that is best case scenario.
Yeah, we've been having this conversation with Region 16.
All right, good.
They understand that it's a priority. I will say the one thing about what Northeast Vista is doing that's different from our whole scale approach is they're really just doing it in order to offer more history, government, English, speech, right? So there's no technical dual credit component to the plan. It's really about expanding gen ed, which is fine. And I think that's going to happen with Badger Bound regardless. But I think we have an obligation to create those CTE pathways as well.
Becky mentioned something about paraprofessionals out of Region 16.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody else knows about those. That's actually, if that works, that's going to be a good model for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't looked recently at the data, but the number of paraprofessionals who are basically instructors of record in the classroom throughout K-12 is really high, like nearly 200,000, something like that. So not technically qualified or certified. Yeah, it's pretty high. But how do you identify paraprofessionals and upskill them so that they can become your proxies for instruction?
And even if they're not the IOR, if they can even be the facilitator, or
Right.
something, so that you've got somebody in the classroom that understands the course material.
Frank, do you have another topic that you wanted to bring up, or are you willing to
Yes.
open up for questions?
If y'all have other questions, I'm happy to answer them about Badger Bound. If they occur to you later on, just shoot them my way. Or advisory council.
Well, you mentioned you did the core advisory council.
Think about 37 that we don't already know, that you know?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you've updated Senate about. I'm thinking about the syllabus statement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we should talk about that, definitely.
Okay. So there's been some concern from faculty about one aspect of Senate Bill 37, which puts more scrutiny on what's taught in the classroom. And you've seen stories of faculty around the state, most recently a professor at A&M who was fired for some content that was delivered in the class. This was brought to my textbook or in other course material that you have, which is going to create issues with certain students. And if students complain about content you're presenting on, gender or race or sexual orientation or something like that, and it's a part of the course, what are your protections? Is that a fair way to put it? And
The A&M professor was exonerated yesterday, by the way. So-
Excellent.
Good, that's good.
We're a public institution. Courses that we are authorized to teach come from a statewide inventory. The Academic Course Guide Manual, the ACGM, or WECA, the Workforce Education Course Manual. There's a little bit of latitude with some special topics classes, local needs classes, but for the most part, everything down to us through the state, and it's managed by the coordinating board and their committee structure. And so you teach a composition class, it's got a particular course description, and it's got student learning outcomes that have been identified. And then our responsibility is to make sure that the class we teach is in adherence to what's in the course guide manual. And so if, the course description basically indicates that you're going to be talking about, human sexuality. You're in compliance with remedy. And what we had a discussion about because of some conversations that were bubbling up among faculty is like, how do you broadly advertise that through the syllabus to students, to parents, to the community, that this is, what the classes are supposed to be. And so we had some back and forth, and I kind of put it on Mark's table to get his feedback since he's our general counsel. And that's kind of where we are now. Just kind of waiting on his perspective on what it could look like, if it's even necessary. Since I last talked about it specifically with Chris, I did have kind of an epiphany. And that really was connecting the syllabus statement to the ACGM, to the WECM, in addition to our board policy manual, section DGC, which talks specifically about academic freedom, not only for faculty in the classroom, but also for our students in the classroom as well. What I don't want to end up with, if it were entirely up to me, and it's not, is a situation where we have like 1,000 different syllabi statements that are unique to specific professors and courses, that essentially create a roadmap for complaints. The more general we can be, the more we can get away with fewer words, I think is best. And if we can link it to our own policy, our own practices, and what the state has established for us, then we'll be better off. But my hope is, I keep pestering Mark. Now that this is being live streamed, hopefully there are those out there who are listening who can apply some pressure in addition to mine. To come back to Senate with some possible drafts to inspire feedback. And, you know, really the way I envision it is whatever it ultimately looks like, it comes through you, right? And my job is to be creative alongside of you. And to help you communicate if necessary with faculty, to help assemble us all together if that's something we need to do, but to get something in place as rapidly as possible. And, you know, I want y'all to feel good about what you're teaching. So trying to accelerate it, but that's kind of where we are. Okay. All right. Senate Bill 12, probably not one you've heard about because it's it really belongs to the K-12 space. But are you aware of it? Yeah. This is the parental rights form, consent form, about what's taught, what students are introduced to, and the ability to opt out of that. And so it's kind of like a full disclosure bill. And started thinking about how that might impact us. I mean, it's for K-12, it's not for post-secondary education, but there's one way in which it potentially could impact us, and that's through dual credit, right? Because it's an overlapping space. And I'm waiting on guidance from TAC. There may be some guidance from TCCTA at some point. I've asked Mark to give feedback on his interpretation of the bill and what it might put us on the hook for. But as it stands now, this is kind of what I think our response would be. If we're, let's say, delivering a sociology class in high school or a biology class, and it's perfectly in line with the academic course guide manual and consistent with what we're already delivering here at the college. Have this analogy is going to break down if you go too far with it, but we're not going to have like a G-rated version of the course and an R-rated version, if that makes sense. You know, we're actually, SACS is about 7 years ago, put everybody on notice about our responsibility to mirror in the dual credit space what we precisely do at the college. And that even includes like the services that we provide, right? So dual credit students having access to the same thing that our students have. making sure that rigor is the same, making sure that the courses are the same. So we actually have an accreditation requirement to do the same thing that we do here. So I don't believe our response to Senate Bill 12 could be to produce some sort of diluted product. I think we would have to shift the burden to the high schools to say, this is the class that we have. This is the course content. This is what we teach. This is what we award college credit for. And if you want to offer it at your high school for students, that's great. We would love for you to. And students who want to enroll in this can sign a waiver. And in that way, they satisfy their disclosure to parents, but we satisfy our responsibility to SACS and the state.
It feels like there could be a lot of overlap between that and the syllabus statement that we're doing with Senate Bill 37.
I believe so.
Just because like for like biology classes and stuff, because like we teach sex, but we don't teach gender, right? And so like having that statement there to protect us in the classrooms at this level, but then also if human A and P ever does go into a dual credit option, which it potentially could,
Yes.
then I think that would also, maybe there's a way that we could kind of merge it, maybe provide that in the faculty, like in the syllabus statement, that like maybe there's a way to kind of merge it to make it a less complicated, but also I don't mind doing a waiver if that adds extra layer of protection for faculty.
Well, I think that relative to parents.
Okay.
And it would be a way for us to kind of be non-negotiable about
Right.
changing the course.
Mhm.
Now, on all syllabi, whenever the WECM or the ACT it was awful.
We are live streaming.
I was having that conversation. It's Friday. All of that, I'll have some possible answers to bring to you early on in the spring at your first Senate meeting, and then we can start working through that. Ideally, we would have something locked in before we break, but that's just not going to be feasible, so. But whatever we get, we can always insert into the syllabus in real time, right? Like we don't need to wait, so we can update accordingly. Yeah, and then responsibilities will be to have that conversation with superintendents and principals as it comes up. So, all right. We have been authorized to disclose anything about the proceedings thus far and the data sets that we're looking at and how it's going. At a certain point in early March, we'll have to be a little more closed lip, mainly because the coordinating board doesn't want to run into a situation where someone on the council is telling their president one thing only to find out that the final recommendation from the coordinating board to the legislature is totally different. But I will reiterate, we are going to have a reduced core. And I'm not necessarily concerned about that. Y'all hear reduction and you might be thinking fewer courses in the inventory. I don't think that's what it means at all. What I've been advocating for is right now the general core, the gen ed core is a fiction because it's non-binding. And if that 42-hour core is non-binding, then a 30-hour version of it is still a fiction. It's just the difference between a novella and a short story. The real problem is the non-binding nature of it. A student who takes whatever the gen ed core is at Amarillo College ought to count as degree applicable credit no matter where they go in the state at any public institution. And that's not happening. I think what is likely to happen is we move toward a smaller core of 30 to 36 hours that's universally binding. And then the hours that are freed up as a result become tracks, right? So imagine a gen ed core of X number of hours, like as a trunk of a tree that is universal for all pathways, for all students. 30 hours, 36, or whatever. And then when they climb to the top of that trunk and now the tree starts to bifurcate, you've got binding STEM tracks, binding humanities tracks, binding creative arts tracks, right? But the point is, all of this work, in my opinion, is irrelevant if you don't get to binding. And that's going to be the toughest sell because some of these 4 years don't want to be told to conform. And there are two systems in particular that are not reliant on transfer students and feel no obligation to conform because they're not reliant. Texas Tech has a substantial transfer population. Because we're live streaming, I won't say names.
Doesn't like us the way.
Or less. System that's got a feeder college, right? So they've already got it mapped out. So I think it'll really be a tough sell for the coordinating board to get those big players on board with something that's universally binding. But if you're worried about your discipline going away or your course going away, I don't think that's going to happen. It hasn't happened in other states when they've made substantial changes to the core. Arkansas's got a 15-hour core. Kansas has like a 35-hour core. Florida is kind of in that range. You look at course distribution, I mean, you're still, it still resembles what we have. But we'll see. But I promise you, I'll be sending out updates in real time as I have these meetings. when I have new information about how things are going. And, if y'all have thoughts about it or concerns, feel free to pass them along to me. We'll probably do some kind of presentation at Texas Pathways in the spring. There are several of us in the 2-year space on this council who kind of want to provide an update to the community colleges at large about the work that's going on. But the one thing that I'm really encouraged by is the 4-year reps on the council, like, they get it. They really do. They understand the challenges that we have and the burden that we place on students who transfer. So I think they have the right spirit of cooperation, and they understand what we really should be working toward. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that, unless you have questions.
Have you read that course?
Hmm?
Have you gotten to all the things?
Yeah.
All right, then, would you mind opening up? And there's some senators who would like to ask questions about some topics that I've heard from. So those of you who have questions, please proceed.
I know I talked to you, but I think it was the same for the open thing versus just asking questions.
Okay. Do you want to? Spanish one? Do you want to ask about sabbatical?
Oh, yeah, like, the question about the sabbatical for the AC faculty, I was like, is it anywhere in the AC, policies or anything like that, or?
Not to my by whom?
The other faculty.
The other faculty. The adjunct tree, and so I started thinking about, it's not in alignment with our mission. It can create some equity overload issues for faculty, and many of y'all are already burdened with instruction. It's like, so now you're asking department chairs and deans to manage that. It's just like, wow, we're going to become an angry school because of, one person on a sabbatical or 2 people on a sabbatical. But I'm still thinking about it yesterday. And at the end of the day, I think it depends on how you define it, Asanga. Tenure for us is different than tenure at the university in some important ways because of our institutional context, right? It operates a little bit. If there is an argument to be made for a sabbatical, I think at least for me, my opinion, it would be for a community college version of that. So in other words, the idea that a faculty member could, have a semester-long paid research break appropriate for university, particularly if there's a grant to back that up. But what might work in a community college space? Release time, so you're still teaching, but you have some time freed up. I don't know, but I warmed up to it slightly. All that to say, I'm not the final arbiter on this. I think if there is any kind of critical mass or consensus among faculty about sabbatical connected to research, presumably, I think that's not negotiable. Then I think you need ultimately to take that through Senate and your officers to Dr. Connor. And I can give my thoughts and can work with you. So I don't want to close the door. That's not within my power or purview. But I just want you to be a way in which it works at this college, even though we don't have any kind of historical precedent. But I would hate to lose you for a semester because you're on a sabbatical doing really cool research. And what about the students who would be deprived of your instruction? You know? And
Just a thought I had.
well, my starting place was in my mind, no, that's going to create issues. And then I'm like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Glad it doesn't have to be my decision.
Anyone have another question for Frank?
I don't know if you're aware, but last time, I brought up, yeah, here it is. It was an open question. I brought up the issue, the registrar's office had sent out those emails with everybody and.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know.
Talk to the president, the officers next week meeting, we talked to her about
We
it,
did.
and I think it went somewhere from there.
Okay, great.
Okay. I'm still gonna check with that because I know she had that conversation about it. Yeah. But I'm in total agreement that.
Well, and I had that same day a conversation with another VP and was told that it wasn't proper. So,
So resolve.
Yes. Well, as far as I know.
Reported, I guess, at least.
Reported.
Reported at least to the
the
higher powers. There you go, to Dr. Connor.
What is efficient. And I'll report back.
Thanks for coming by, we appreciate it,
Yes,
as always.
thank you, Frank.
You're giving me like 40 minutes to.
Enjoy.
We have stuff to do too.
Yes.
Thanks, Frank.
All right, let's move on to, I guess, announcements. I don't have any announcements. Anyone have anything? We have a big void in old business, so I think we're in good shape
We
there.
don't really have.
Well, there's one small thing. I just
Okay.
sent you guys the email this morning.
I got it. Thank
And
you.
I sent one to the three of you. I didn't include Osama because I didn't think he was working on it, but it has the faculty list from.
And I'll go through that and I'll kind of split it up into how many people so that we can match it with the bylaws.
Yeah, and
So we can come with an election plan.
And the issue is, I think we have an approved committee, how we did it last year, and then we have the approved constitution and bylaws, and they don't match.
They don't match currently, so we have to mesh them. And so I can lead up on that. And then
And if you need
whenever,
some help, let me know.
yeah, for sure. I'll just go through it. It's basically counting. And then seeing how many new officer positions we have to implement with the new elections committee in the spring.
I'll put that under elections because that really kind of relates to that, yes.
Good. So we'll move on to just committee reports. Let's see, elections. Any report?
Well, that's kind of what that was about. That was
We're
what
just talking
there
about?
was.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you have anything legislative, Pam? Cassandra, TCCPA?
Just today's friends.
Yeah, today with Frank at 2. I'm probably, if we get out of here, I will probably just be going over to my office, and if you guys want to tune in for his dual credit talk and don't have the link, I'll try to get it to you. I think I can do that. I'm not sure.
Is the link open for non-members too?
How would they tell?
Yeah, I don't know whether there's the login.
That is true.
But I mean, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Delayed Mead.
We haven't gone anywhere on that yet.
Okay. Emeritus, you and I are going to
Yeah.
talk about that soon. Faculty survey.
I missed the last meeting, so I'm really not sure where we're at on that.
What did we do? We approved it, right? With a
approved it.
couple of corrections, and that has, that's, I guess, in Frank's office right now, right? So if there's, I would direct him, I'll direct him to you if there's any other questions about it. Hospitality, Sarah's not here, but there's somebody.
Treva brought
Somebody
snacks.
hospitable.
Treva, that was Treva.
We don't have anything professional standards and relations. Faculty development, I'm sort of the junior guy on there, but Stephen's,
We had, I don't know, I think last meeting we had, where the bids are coming back on the food, that's good. There's a little debate on what we're maybe scaling back a little bit on food for some other budgetary reasons or whatever, but I know we have more presentations and we have rooms, which is nice. Matter of fact, a couple of y'all maybe put presentations on outside, just if you're in any room, just kidding. We're squeezing some closets into some small space, so it's good. There was a lot of responses to that. And everything's going well. We got a final meeting on the 15th to wrap everything up before Christmas break, and at that point, it should pretty much be lined out, so.
Yeah, this seems like we're in pretty good shape.
Yes.
And if you haven't been out to first responders, that's where it's going to be. It's a great place, and it's where we have it just about set up, I think. Instructional technology, I've not been required to do anything for that. Faculty committee appointments.
Not really there yet, but we'll work on it this spring.
Okay. Rank and tenure. The ad hoc human resources.
Yeah, they've been having them.
Okay. Well, we sort of dissolved the SB 37
Yep,
provisions.
it's dissolved.
committee.
It's dissolved.
No, nothing to report.
Yeah,
It's dead.
but we're kind of,
Yeah,
fixing that.
we're integrating, so.
and then I was looking at the drive, if I can actually understand how to use
We've got more
it.
work to do still, but we
Yeah.
we
Thanks
have.
to Delane, I finally
And Rashmi and Derek.
okay, yes, thank you. I finally got
So if you,
access. So if you do not have, I guess I do need to say that, if you did not get it, let me know because I sent it to every one of you. So.
but it's definitely easier to find things you need to find, particularly for officers and their duties and things like that. So I don't know, moving forward.
I do have a question, actually.
Okay.
We were looking at, there's a lot of archival material there.
Right.
And we thought it best for us to kind of go through those archives and like pull anything related to Constitution and bylaws and put it in the Constitution and bylaws folder with a date that, do you want historical archiving that way? Because we have in that folder, we have what's current, and then we're going to have an archive folder underneath it. Is that?
I don't know, those of you who've used it, I think,
So we were thinking of making a copy of that and putting it into that bylaws folder so that okay, this was what it was.
is there a way to like reasonably do some kind of thing where you have, you have all the things like the officer, what the officer's roles and bylaws and constitution. But every year, slide all of the extra
Yes.
stuff like minutes and
Yes.
stuff like that over to a single archives folder where when you open it up, you have the stuff you need, the stuff we need for the current Senate to do their job. And then the archives, if anybody ever needs to do a historical search or anything like that. I mean, really where there's just like two big folders when you open up the faculty Senate drive.
Current archive.
Yeah, I mean,
That makes sense, yeah.
yeah. I think, well, this is kind of, it's slipping into the open forum, but that was the last committee report. I've had a couple, Frank, for instance, has said that he would be happy for the VPAA office to take care of all of the like email switch over and all of the kinds of things. You know, we used to have 3-year senators. Now we're just going to have 2. So the institutional history, which is hard to catch up with anyway, is going to be even shorter, right? So Frank has offered to make sure that the VPAA office can do that technical side of things, where the email lists get shifted to the proper email people. Maybe even the Google Drive gets shifted. He didn't want us to, or he didn't want to say, he wanted us to make sure that we felt comfortable with the VPAA office having that kind of to the Senate, the Senate innards. And then I brought up in our meeting with Dr. Connor the possibility of actually creating a new office called Senate Historian, because under Senate Bill 37, someone can be reappointed for 6 years running. So since the Senate is going to have a much faster rollover, if we had somebody who was sitting in here, I think Dr. Connor would let us elect someone to do that and recommend it to her so the person could be our choice. They would be here through 3 different rollovers, right? Because they would be here for 6 years in a row. And so some of these other questions of, what it is you're supposed to do, what a committee is supposed to be looking at, all of those things, we'd have somebody here that would always be able to answer those questions for the new senators. And we're basically, when we go into this new system, we're all going to be
We're all
new
new
senators.
senators, yeah.
Yeah. So if that's something that you think would be valuable for the Senate.
Address the first one. My problem that is, what happens when it's not Frank?
Right.
And so
Valid.
my only concern on that is yeah, there's a turnover is going to be a lot more. In distinguished type thing, but
Right. No, I mean,
that's just my only concern in turning that over. And believe me, as much as we struggle trying to get everything changed, who changes what and where is it, it's a pain.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to have it, provided that's something that we can change if we need to.
If we just had it, it's a shame that as faculty Senate, we don't have the kind of gravitas to get people moving when we ask them to, can you just change the owner of our email list? Maybe if we had something in between where we would go to the VPA's office and say, would you?
And they'd be willing to work. See, to me, that would be my preference, just thinking in a long-term solution versus.
Just that we have the backup of them to go in and say, change this for faculty Senate.
Yeah, we take them the list, and they're the ones that say will react better when the VP is asking them to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just a procedure. It'd probably be, what would it be? Faculty, would it be secretary that handled that coming in and going out and all
I
that?
think so. Because Pam's currently the owner of the folder,
Right.
and so she would have to give that ownership to the new secretary, right?
Which
which I will gladly do it.
I know you will.
But I mean,
I'm done.
but it would just be passing it on, right?
Right, but yeah.
If it goes from secretary to secretary, be able to
Yes.
be implemented easier.
You know, or it could be the VP coming in, the president's thing. I mean, I don't know, whatever. We just need somebody to go up and ask Frank to get Sherry, you know, to call them and say, do this, so that they'll do it.
And I think, and my own thing was that way, if we get somebody else, then we're not saying, hey, now this is all yours. We just don't do it, hey, in the past, VPAA has done this for us. Would you mind sending an email? Something simple like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the historian position that I'm talking about is actually even more so what you're talking about. Because if we had a less congenial administration, then we would have some, you know, embedded person that we might not want there. So I mean, that's why I see maybe if we get all of our, you know, our Google Drive and all of the transfers and everything, you know, set up where it's user friendly, then we wouldn't need that. But I don't know. What do you
It is
think?
fast becoming user friendly.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've already done made it somewhat, but we definitely can make it more so.
So,
I know how to transfer ownership, so I got it. I
so,
will transfer the ownership to the next secretary.
so those questions that I was suggesting for what that person might do, that sort of institutional history, if we have it set up in a way that that we can use it, you think that will cover all that?
I think it would.
And I think that's a good idea to have somebody that would be in place across regimes, if you will, to be able to carry that forward.
How was Dr. O'Connor amenable to that 6-year term?
Yeah, I mean, she was like, whatever you guys want.
Okay.
You know, we also, when we come next spring, when we come back, we're not going to meet again until February 6th, right? So next spring, when we come back, the main point on the agenda is going to be figuring out how to do elections now, because we have this basically a memorandum of understanding with the president's office that we will elect people and provide her with a list of who we suggest will be appointees. And that could be part of that package, right? To whether we want to have a new officer role that rolls over 6 years or 3 years or whatever. I mean, if you go roll over 3 years, then that covers a number of people. So it doesn't have to be full 6.
You want like a motion or, I mean, to create that new position or?
I think we should just think about it and wait until we start developing the new process for elections.
Because we'd probably have to put that new position in the bylaws.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I didn't know if you just wanted to like decide that's a good idea and work on it now instead of waiting until then, or?
That's a good starting.
Yeah, I think that might be.
okay, let's just wait. We can start talking about it more in the spring. That it would be a part of the election piece and the appointing piece and all that. So we'd have to probably get someone that is currently here to be appointed that the first time. So that would be strictly an appointed thing, but we could, as the Senate, we could vote on who it would be and then send that note over to the president's office. So I think we have time to deal with it. But if we can't elect somebody who hasn't been here yet to come in and do it, so we might as well just wait till we elect the new folks. All right, any other business that we need to take care of today? Okay.
And the only reason I waited is I feel like this maybe excels Frank's spot. And so that's why I didn't want to put him on the spot. There were 2 things that I wanted to ask. If you don't know, the PD lost their police chief for reasons, and that's irrelevant. The only thing is we haven't heard anything about what's going on. And they hired a consultant to tell us who we need, not who, what we need, the qualifications for that person. And that's all Actually, we haven't even heard of that, we just found that out. And so there was people that were just asking, it'd be nice for us to maybe get an update on where that process is and what they're looking for. When we meet, unless you already know, or.
The hiring process? was it?
Yeah, or not, where it's going, what it looks like, how long, that type of thing, because, the police department, it's a campus, but it interacts with us, and it could be a good or a bad thing. And we had a good thing, I thought, and then, he left, and like I said, the whys are irrelevant. We'd like to keep the good thing that I thought we had, so.
Okay. We can address that next Friday, right?
Okay, and then the next one. So, speaking of lack of tenure, the budget thing. I think there's, if you haven't talked about it, everybody is talking about it. Chris Sharp did not work in a vacuum. People signed off on stuff, people met with things, boards met, committees met.
Yeah, you don't spend money around here without multiple signatures.
Yeah, you can't hire somebody without, I literally have like 7 or 8 signatures every month on my credit card. Okay, so and if you're signing it and not reading it, shame on you. I just think there's a significant lack of communication. I came from a college where that was rampant, and I came here and I thought I liked it because we didn't have that. And I'm getting I feel like there's some very strong overtones of lack of transparency. And don't spin things, because then you've got to explain why you spun them instead of just telling the truth. And I don't know. Maybe that doesn't bother anybody but me.
Oh, no, it does.
We did talk to her about some of this, I will say that.
Okay.
With our last one with her. And so, we brought up that, and she did state about that the audit that they've hired, an external audit to come in, and it will be a 3-month process.
Well, yeah, it's not open.
And I did express my concern about everyone being aware of that, because I think that, because she brought up the idea about having concern, the rumor mill and things like that. And I said, well, the more we know, the better off we are. I said, because the more you let it just drag on without any sort of guidelines, or, we don't know, like, we had not been told that. And
Well,
I
don't
did
tell us
suggest
everything
that
is good, and then follow with an email saying we're cutting a lot of budgets and we're cutting all this stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
that is
wait a
true.
minute.
So I think there's some concerns
There's
there,
no
but
concerns with money.
Yes.
so yes, well, and the pause on hiring, and there's
Yeah.
been a lot of things that have come out. And like I said, we did address that a little bit and say that, we feel like there needs to be some more communication.
And I think it's an opportune time for them to choose a route of transparency or lose faith.
Well, if the last board meeting, when she put up a bunch of different ways of looking at the costs and the numbers, as I was watching, I could see that the board was thinking, well, we haven't seen these numbers sort of presented in this way before. And that is what her specialty is higher education finance. So I think there is a communication issue. There's a lot of rumors out there, and of course, Channel 7 did a freedom of information request to get that letter from Chris Sharp, or email from Chris Sharp. And that's gone out there. The thing that I've been seeing following social media is that we received a 1% loan from Amarillo National Bank, and that's not true. We received 1%, yeah, prime, which is pretty, but when you're talking large loans, corporations and institutions, they get banks to bid for them, right? So they try to they try to get that. I don't know that we went through a bidding process, but that's not an unusual thing. It's just it's being
My problem
reported.
was the spin they put on it when they announced, oh, we took out a line of credit, that's what everybody does. No, you took out a line of credit
Yes.
because you have financial problem.
Well, and she did address that. It was about waiting for funding from the state. And she said they took out a 1-day loan and it probably cost the college about $1,000. Because the funding came in the next day.
That's what everybody does.
We
I
did
know.
it because we have a problem.
It-
That's my,
So it-
that's that
it
spin.
was- So that is what we were told at our meeting with her.
Yeah.
Was that they were waiting on state funding. There were concerns within the business office and all of that about having funds. And so they did that for 1 day. The funding came in the next day. It was paid off. It's done. And we still, I guess, have officially that line of credit, but
Yeah, I mean-
it was utilized for 1 day. That is what we were told at our meeting with Dr. But why wasn't that told?
Why wasn't that the
Why
description?
wasn't that just
versus-
like shared in?
So the misinformation is what bothers me. And I'm not putting y'all on the spot. That was brought to me and I'm like, yes, I will be more than happy because I have these very same concerns. And as a faculty person, as somebody that lives here in Amarillo, man, just be honest with it. That is all I'm asking for. Because you know what? People make mistakes. I make mistakes. Take responsibility. People will respect that you take your mistakes and take ownership. They'll forget them a whole lot faster than it's been. And you talk about social media. If you haven't read the one on Facebook, Take It in the Gas.
Take it in the one.
Gas, GAS. I don't know where that came from, but I mean, what it resembles. Start reading that. Man, they are all over this, and including a bunch of other things too. And so all this does is spurn that when there's not transparency,
People go
rumors
crazy.
and all those things. And then these people just, all of a sudden your conspiracy theorists come out. And now it's this giant thing that it never was, And that's my only thing is it's a bad thing. It looks bad and people are just eating this thing up. And man, how fast does our reputation as a great place to work, which I still believe, with a lot of great people to work with, and I still believe that. Now this is all people see.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, Pam in particular discussed with her the options for how to get out there and be more transparent about how to present these issues.
No, I'm not telling them what to do. They're the president. They do what they want. But we, as employees of the college, are the ones who get the fallout from it.
I mean, I got that first email, that just said, so-and-so is reporting to so-and-so and whatnot, and I had no idea what that meant. I'm just like,
Oh, I just assumed somebody was gone, they.
Why would they shuffle all those
Why they
people?
shuffle, right, they didn't get rid of somebody.
Yeah.
But it would be nice, the rumor mill is rampant.
Yes.
oh, yeah.
And I agree with you, Steve. I think it can be stopped with some transparency.
Well, I mean, besides saying being more transparent, which is easy enough to say, what do you think the best way to create that transparency
And I don't
is?
know,
I mean, that's something that we should be able to take.
I
to.
have, one suggestion is and Steve mentioned it a while ago, he said, we got an email that said, AC's financially fine, we have no problems. And then not long after, got one that said, we have to tighten our belts. And the inconsistency there between those two statements,
Mhm.
I think fueled a lot of the rumors.
Right.
Because people don't know, and when you start saying we gotta tighten our belts, then people start worrying about their jobs and they start talking a lot more.
Right.
And so I think the delivery of that, and how would another message be received? I'm not sure.
Especially we were riding that wave of, we're good, man, this new Senate bill is gonna change things. We're not gonna get all excited about money, but things look really good.
Yeah.
And now we're down at the bottom and we're cutting belts and all that, we're tightening belts and things like that. And so, I think a lot of the delivery was it, the more faculty are in the know, the less, and the more because right now I've had a couple of people ask me outside, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've had
Well, they're like, you work
in the
there. I'm like,
community.
I don't know what to tell you.
I've had people in the community ask what's going on.
And then, like I said, just scrolling, I spend a lot of time on social media for our academy page and all that kind of stuff. So I'm scrolling through a lot. And I see this AC and all these asterisks. I'm like, and I read that, I'm like, wow. And then part 2 is coming out and that's the bad stuff that happens. And so,
We will address that more.
Yeah,
I liked your
We
idea
will
about doing
address
like
that
a
more.
town hall, like how
Yeah.
Russell used to do. He would do a town hall on Fridays occasionally.
if we need
That was-
time about it, fine.
Yeah.
Just tell
I
us.
was
She's
like,
got
that's a
the
great
last
idea.
aces
Because,
thing
like,
for
it
90
gives them a
minutes, right?
place for us to
But-
talk.
That's
That's
over a month away. And that's a lot of rumors and a lot of time for people to spin things up.
It's just gonna get worse. The longer
And the
they
thing, I
avoid it.
know it takes a long time to do an audit, especially for an entity of this size. Okay, that's not an overnight thing. And I think most people, common sense, you say, hey, look, it's gonna take a month, 2 months, whatever, to get the audit done. People go, yeah, I bet it will. But you gotta do some patching of the leak or fixing of the rumor mill or whatever in the meantime.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
So-
I think over communicate.
Percent over communicate. Send too many emails. We already get enough anyway.
Even if they think,
even just, from the stuff that she put together for the board meeting, that, were just numbers, that it was out there public. I mean, I would send that out as a PowerPoint thing to everybody and say, look at this. Okay, we only owe $1.3 million left on the whole construction thing. And that'll be over really soon. We're paying it off. We're trying to create a rainy day fund. We should have a line of credit, all those kinds of things. I mean, she did that in the board meeting, and, you could put, there's no reason not to send that out. It was a public meeting. That can be sent out as well, right? You could let people try to, I mean, these guys who think that we got a 1% loan, who knows how their math skills are somewhat suspect, but,
And I don't think you need to chase every person out there with conspiracy theory that's putting something on social media, because then that's all you would do is spend all your time doing that. But I think someone, hopefully they are looking into some of these things to hopefully refute some of that stuff, because, man, I mean, if you read that one again, because that was just the latest one I saw, man, they're looking at how many vehicles, I mean, they're just going down a rabbit hole with this. But that only happens when you give them a reason to start digging.
right. Yeah, it was like what Frank was saying about the syllabus for, the subject matter. You don't want to give somebody a roadmap
Yeah, that's true.
to,
Yes,
to
exactly.
complain. Yet you have to also be transparent about what you're going to do. And that's a pretty tricky area. That's why we've been waiting on Mark White to answer us. I talked to Frank about it, and he said, well, we've got to get Mark to let us know what the deal, how to deal with this. And this was when, the A&M professor was still, fired and all of that. And so, there's a lot of stuff going on, I think. And,
And not everything can be answered overnight, but some preemptive stuff would be nice.
right. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Thanks.
And then
I mean, these are better.
even the commitment.
Or even like a newsletter, like Frank
Quarterly or
does.
something. That way, expect something.
The state of the colleges, we just want to know.
Yeah.
That's it.
The more that the dots can be connected, the better. Because, I'm just an X-ray tech.
I mean,
It's a minor business. Whenever you send one email that says, we're getting a lot of credit and then everything's all right, those don't go together. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to pretend to be the biggest financial guy in the world, but those
I'm not.
those as general terms, even I know that. They don't. And so, when the dots don't connect, that's when things start getting, and I know there's have to be missing darts in the middle, but like I said, when they are completely opposite of each other, it does really start going,
The funniest thing is, like the Board of Regents has a financial committee, right? What did they do? They should have seen a trend.
That was my point. Chris didn't work in a vacuum.
Yeah. There's,
I'll leave it.
Yeah, that's right.
Feels like there's just a lack of accountability
there was,
and communication.
there was some interesting interaction in that, by just facial expressions in that board meeting where, you know, I was,
This is so bad.
okay. And commentary, you know, we had certain areas that ran way, you know, way over because the sort of idea changed for them. And, you know, and those were,
Doesn't lead to like laying off faculty and staff.
right, of course. I mean, bottom line is that's what our job is to make sure that, you know, and I include staff with us. I mean, I
Yeah, I do too.
don't think of us as a separate entity from
We're all
staff.
employees.
So, yeah, I mean, bottom line is that's what we need to ensure, and that's the kind of information we want.
Well,
So,
and you just said there's not.
Indirectly.
Is there a
What's the
hiring
result?
process?
Hiring freeze for 90 days or something.
Staff.
Well, no, that's a 90-day pause. Have your position reviewed, get 5 or 6 people that say they like it, still want to go on, then wait.
It's the
Which
new
is funny because
process.
that's full circle to when I first came here, that was the biggest complaint was we're losing people because it takes so long to get them hired. And if you read that,
Now
you
we're
can
back
offer
to
the
it.
job, but you can't really offer a job.
I'm told that was for non-faculty, that it was every, you know.
I heard it was, I heard that was
And I
non-faculty.
heard that from up.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
the
Your line.
Because we were just told that we got a new faculty line and I know that our department chair is working on the posting and then we'll get it posted as soon as we can. So is that what's happening? And maybe I've got the wrong information, but I don't.
Well, I know they came through and because we use a lot of supplementals. So they're only paid when they're actually teaching. They're like, do you really need it? I'm like, you can shut it down. It's not gonna save any money, you know, because the only time we hire supplementals, replace when the supplemental leaves, so.
But I think if you consider the officers' meetings, I think not last month, but a month before was right when this began. And the email came out while we were in there.
Yeah, like it was
With-
like 15 minutes before, like we're waiting and we're like,
So we didn't discuss it at that point, and we didn't even know about it at that point. And then last month, we did discuss it, and just in general about the kinds of things that were going on, and she did ask us for, you know, ideas about how to, you know, communicate this information better. And this month, there's been other things yet that have occurred. So, I mean, we have a lot to talk about next Friday, so.
Just keep the dialogue open, that's the biggest thing.
All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
oh,
Motion to adjourn.
I actually had a little something.
Oh, you got something,
I
sorry.
had a little something, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we have noticed, at least over in the biology department, that last spring we ratified our new department policy, like going through and updating policies and
Yes, we all had to
everything.
do that.
Mhm. And we decided to eliminate our hybrid courses on the Washington Street campus. And so we're only doing our hybrids, at least for like A&P and micro and blah, 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 in our satellite campuses. So like Moore County, Hereford County. And like, we decided that as a department, like we all voted to ratify it. And our department chair stated that it wouldn't go into effect until spring 2026, just because the schedule had already been out and it was already enrolling, everything like that. So we're like, okay, but there had been a very high influx of just the hybrid and the online courses going to one specific faculty member. And so that's one of the reasons that we addressed it. And so whenever our spring schedule came out, the same faculty member has a hybrid course that was not on par with our department policy, and also now has a completely online course that was not communicated with across the department. And so I have brought that to our dean's attention. But it's not going to change anything for the spring just because like it's too late. Everything's already open anyway, which is okay. Like I'm not asking to like have that change or anything, but there has also been a very distinct lack of transparency in the department chair to faculty level. And it's showing signs of favoritism to an extent. And it's not just like one or two faculty members who brought this to my attention. There's probably about like 6 or 7 of us that we've been talking to about it. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to attention.
What was the general reason you decided to get rid of?
Because students are more successful, especially with our lab classes and just like those more intense science level courses that require, like we meet 3 hours a day, basically. And so we were seeing like the hybrid courses were just a remnant of COVID. And because like before COVID, we offered no hybrid courses for A and P. And so whenever COVID hit, we all kind of went hybrid, everything like that. And there was a few little sprinklings here and there after COVID, but we all eventually got back onto our full in-class load, except for particular people. So, yeah.
And how,
Is that particular person just coming on those 2 days that they have the hybrid course?
For which one?
Do they come to campus only on those days?
I mean, we've heard reports from other students and stuff that these hybrid courses, like while there is some that like they are on the schedule, it says that it's supposed to be in class and they are not there. So the hybrid courses end up only meeting like once a month in person.
That's not a hybrid class.
good job, you didn't get it.
Correct, exactly. And like, if that is an option, like no hybrid courses were communicated that there would be one that they should be offered on a rotation and the online course that apparently is piloting, they decided to pilot it. But none of that was communicated within our department. And like, it was specifically given to a single person without disclosure or transparency from the higher levels. So
Maybe we should also take that up, questions. So
Yeah.
that we could be more precise about.
correct, yeah,
Yes.
Information.
without any more stuff, yeah.
Thanks.
But that's
Yeah, I got a couple of questions regarding the speech department as well.
Mm.
Similar.
Okay,
Similar things.
Okay, we'll talk about it in our questions.
yes, yes.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm gonna put.
we have a motion to adjourn, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
So
All
you,
in favor?
Delane, and then second contractor, okay.
Let me go turn up.
140.
Congrats on Molly. Isn't that amazing?
I'm so happy.
I know.
They were working all over. My daughter-in-law just has been accepted at Texas Tech Medical School.
Oh.